my name's Kevin, and this is my resurrection story. So I'm not from round here, I'm from Liverpool. I grew up in a really good family, a twin brother and a sister. I'd done well at school, sort of. I played football at a high level. I played for Everton. I boxed, and my life was pretty good. Years later, I got into addiction stuff and started stealing and lost my way. And that's the way my life went for a long time. You know, I had all the love in the world from my parents. You know, I had a really good family. I was close with all my cousins, my siblings, and I just lost my way. I started using drugs at the age of 15. Cannabis, ecstasy, stuff like that. And it took me to a point where I thought I was okay doing that type of stuff. And then fast forward the tape a little bit, and I used drugs I said I'd never use. And I used them in ways I said I would never use them. I picked up hard drugs, heroin, crack cocaine, and I started getting arrested and going to prison. And I would go to prison, and when I was in prison, I would be at mass and I would be praying, and then I would get out and I would do the same stuff over again. And I've always believed that God's been with me. I've always believed it. But there was a point going through my life where I really, really thought I was by myself. And then looking back on stuff, the way my life ended up, I realised He was always with me. You know, I started going to prison for long periods of time, and when I would be in prison, I would be attacked by staff, and I would attack staff. So I was kept in segregation units a lot. And every single day you have to see like the governor, a doctor, and a priest. And the priest would come in, and the doctor wouldn't come in. The governor wouldn't come in, they would stand outside. But there was a priest, a Monsignor called Father John Heslin in Stafford Prison, and he would stand outside, and he would knock the door, and he would open the door, and he would come in, and it was the only contact I had, and I would sit there and I would pray with him and all that stuff, and my faith grew again, and then I got out and I'd done the same thing over and over again. You know, I've been on sort of like life support machines a couple of times, and you know, I've got metal plates all over my body through active addiction, and I've had attempts on my life, or my throat slit from side to side, and through all of that, I've been carried. It's not like I'm a superhero. I can get away with all that stuff as much as I would think it sometimes. You know, God carried me through all that. So all the times when I thought that He'd left me, I think of the footprints. I was carrying you. Why was there only one set of footprints? I was carrying you. And I believe I've been carried. I believe I continue to be carried. So coming back this time, I got clean in 2013, sorry, for the first time. My mum was dying of cancer, and I got clean. And I buried my mum clean. You know, our house when we were children, you would walk in, the statues of the Virgin Mary, and there'd be the St. Jude prayers on the wall, and Father Pio would be there on the wall. So it was a Catholic household I lived in. We would go to mass and stuff like that, and sometimes we'd skip mass and you'd be asked what colour vestments would the priest wearing and all that stuff. So then years and years later, when I end up in prison, I'm the only person that's allowed in my cell by himself. If staff come in, they have to come in 3 at a time. But the only person that will come in is the priest. And when I was speaking to my mate about it, I was speaking to him and he said to me, that's absolutely really powerful. That the priest will come into your cell and he will sit there, and staff would say to him, don't go in there with him. And he would say, I'm going in to sit with him. And he would come in, and I would feel great when he left. So the presence has always been there for me, always. Sometimes I've detached myself from God. And so I'm going to fast forward the story a bit. My mum died. I buried her clean. Then my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was clean, but I wasn't aligned with God. I wasn't practicing my faith at all. I was really egotistical. I was arrogant. I was self-righteous, and I can still be like that sometimes. But I certainly wasn't aligned with Christ at all. And it took me to the point where I was running my own life again. I wasn't handing nothing over to God, and I was running my own life. And I don't run it very good. I run it really badly. And I ended up picking up drugs again in 2015. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I was praying to just die in the end. You know, I was living from house to house to house, and I was stealing, I was robbing people, I was doing stuff that went against every model that I have in my body, but I was doing it. To the point where someone tried to kill me, and they slashed my throat. And I remember the incident. I remember I have dreams about it and stuff. And I remember him cutting my throat and just thinking, I'm ready to go. And I still used drugs after that. You know, I had blood pouring out my neck. And I went and used crack cocaine and heroin. And then I went to the hospital. I was in resus in the hospital. My twin brother come up, and he said, listen, he's in resus, we'll let you know what's happening. And I woke up the next morning with 27 staples in my neck. And the surgeon came in and he said, it's unbelievable. I went, what? He said, how were no vital organs severed in your neck? I said, I'm not a surgeon, I don't know. And, you know, I'm in active addiction, and even then I thought, something's looking after me. Something is looking after me. Someone is looking after me. And he went, there's no way a cut that deep would not sever the organs, the vital organs. He said, we thought we were going to have to put a throat box in. He said, because of how deep the cut was. You know, in 2000, I'm going to go back a bit. In 2007, I flatlined for 17 seconds, and I ended up waking up with a colostomy bag on. I got brought back with paddles, and I woke up 4 days later out of a coma with a colostomy bag on. My twin brother was there, my mum was there. They flew over to Ireland to see me. I was living in Ireland at the time, so they flew over to Ireland to see me. And I just remember my mum crying and my dad crying, but my mum praying over me and saying to me, someone's looking after you, Kevin, and God's good. I remember her saying it all the time. She would say, God's good. And she would always pray to St. Jude for me. And then I ended up with this. Someone tried to kill me. I just spoke about it. And I ended up coming up to Glasgow. And I came up here with the desire to change my life, to stop using drugs and to live my life the way I was intended to live it. And I came up and I got clean, and I went to a fellowship. That's a bit of a different fellowship. It's the 12-step fellowship. I went there and see, what I believe is that through my active addiction and all the stuff that I do, that I'm blocked from God. I'm blocked from Jesus, right? So I'm blocked with resentment and anger and fear and judgment and jealousy and insecurity, and all that stuff's inside of me. And in order for me to get that channel from my heart again, I have to get unblocked. So the 12 steps are from the Bible. So I went on a journey of the 12 steps. I'm not going to say I found God, because I remember saying it once and someone said he's not lost. He's never been lost. So I sort of found myself through my connection with God again. And I'm not saying this out like, oh, look at me, I've never worked. It's embarrassing that I've never worked. I come from a family of workers, but I'd never worked. I'd sort of spent most of my life in prison and not worked. And then I come up here and I meet who's my best mate now, a guy of faith, Ian. And I start doing voluntary work. I become employed. You know, I have my son coming up to live with me, who's actually gone home now. But all the stuff in my life, everything I have in my life, I thank God for every single day. When I wake up and I pray, I thank him for everything I have in my life. And not the materialistic stuff. I don't mean that. I mean the peace I have in my life. I mean the relationships that I've been able to build. And through God's grace for keeping me away from situations and a lifestyle that I lived for 30 years. You know, I wake up in the morning, I pray, I meditate, and I try and live my life. Do you know what I try and do? I try and live my life like my mum did. I try and apply the principles that she taught us when we were growing up. My mum and dad taught us, and I try my best. Do I make mistakes? Yeah, of course I do. I'm human. Do I make the same mistake twice sometimes? But I know I'll be okay. I know that if I try and align myself with God every single day, that I'll be okay, that I'll get through no matter what's thrown at me. You know, I'm going through a bit of a tough time at the moment with my son. My son's in Liverpool now. He lived with me for a while and he's back in Liverpool. And I just want to console the situation and get him up here and do this and do that. And it's not right for me to do it. I have to let him go on his own little journey and just be here for him no matter what happens. But my life is amazing because of my faith. That's the only reason. Because of the connection I have with God and because of my faith. You know, I work for an organisation called Hope Connections, and I have the benefit of going out each day to help people. In my job, you know, we help an awful lot of people, and people have said to me since I've been up here, that Hope Connections, that Hope Connections, that, and, you know, we've just started getting some real recognition from community addiction teams, and you know, because we're a big organisation, we do a lot of stuff. Even though there's not many of us, we do a lot of stuff. So thank God, and thanks for listening.